2016 election. Let's start there with Senator Blackburn. Senator, we have a couple things specifically I want to talk about, but I'm sure you heard a little bit of that call from Christine, and I think she's representative of a lot of people who are in the audience who are Trump voters, who they see whether or not what happens with the Electoral College. They see that obviously, at a minimum, all the rules were changed to make sure Biden won, and that's not fair. They feel disenfranchised. And so what are you supposed to do with that energy, and what are we supposed to do going forward? Because you can't have a republic this way when every election half the country doesn't think it's fair or legitimate.
You're right about that. And my hope is that you're going to see more states join Texas with the lawsuit. Because as I talk to Tennesseans, they say, hey, wait a minute, we have no problems here. We have handled what we need to do. We've done it fairly. And then we find out these other states were out here doing these massive mail-outs of ballots and then not going through the proper audit process when those ballots were returned. So basically, what they're doing is saying there's not a one-person, one-vote strategy anymore, and it's going to be up to us, if we want to protect our vote, to step up and challenge these states to abide by their own election laws.
So do you see a path to keep challenging some of these votes? What else can be done because not the votes per se, but some of these states getting certified? Because, again, it's so clear it's not above board, but it is on the lawyers at this point. I mean, there's only so much I can do from my perch on talk radio. What is the path that you see going forward? Is there a path?
I think the path moving forward is that these state legislatures, well, first of all, you're going to have the lawsuits play out, and thank goodness we have lawsuits that are being filed that challenge what these states did, that are bringing this to light. And, of course, I want to see 4 more years for President Donald Trump. If that does not happen, if there are not enough votes in each state that can be challenged that would change the outcome of the election, then these lawsuits against these individuals need to take place. It's like the Georgia Bureau of Investigation with the runoff there in Georgia. They need to be interviewing those people that are on that video that are shooing your tabulators away and then are pulling suitcases out from under the table and counting votes. They need to be asking. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation needs to be interviewing everyone that says they were disenfranchised, that they went to vote and were told that they had already voted. They need to be interviewing people who say, look, we got 3 and 4 ballots mailed to our house. We didn't fill them out because they weren't ours, but the rolls are not clean. Then the Georgia General Assembly, their state house and state senate, need to require these counties to update their rolls. You know, Alex, how can you have someone who's been dead for 12 years receive a ballot at their previous residence? I mean, this just shows you, has it really been 12 years since this county purged their voter rolls? How often have they done that? How can people who live outside of the state of Georgia be getting text messages to remind them to request a ballot, to remind them to go vote, and they lived in Georgia a decade ago? All of this needs to be investigated, not only in Georgia, but that is top of the list because of the runoff there that will determine if we're on the path to socialism or if we're going to continue to fight for freedom in this country.
Okay, so Senator, you've got a new podcast coming out. It's called Freedom Rings. Tell us about this.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. We all like to hear stories of people who were out here fighting for freedom. And that is what this podcast is all about. It launched yesterday. Your listeners can go to freedomringspodcast.com and find out more. They can also be following me online and listen to some of these episodes. We launched with episodes from Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler, Florida Senator Rick Scott, and Representative-elect Nancy Mace. And individuals can pay attention to what we are doing there. You're going to find us on at Vote Marsha on Twitter, Marsha Blackburn for Senate on Facebook. You're going to find us on Instagram and Snapchat, and hear the stories of these folks that are out there fighting for freedom. You know, Alex, I'd be around Tennessee, and people would say, Marsha, who are the ones that are fighting for us? And then it would be, tell us about them. And I thought, you know what? We need to do a podcast, because the mainstream media is never going to let you know who the freedom fighters are. They're going to glorify the left. So this is a way to really elevate the work that these freedom fighters are doing.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think it's good to go around the establishment media filter. So where can people get it, if they want to listen to the podcast?
freedomringspodcast.com, or they can go to their favorite podcast platform and pull it down.
Very cool, and especially the first episode with Kelly Loeffler is very appropriate because of Georgia. Give us the stakes in Georgia, because this is where I know a lot of us, particularly in this audience, are really identify with a lot of what the president stands for. For me, that's all the more reason why Georgia matters, because it is his. I think his legacy is on the ballot there. I think they're going to try to erase everything he did if the Democrats win those seats, and they're not going to be able to if the Republicans win them.
Well, you're exactly right. That is a good summation. And when you look at what they're going to do, you need to look no further than Chuck Schumer's comments the day of the November election. In his jubilance, he said, we're going to go take Georgia. Not we're going to win it. Not we're going to fight for everyone.
Yes.
We're going to take it.
I noticed that too.
And
it's that is the proverbial Freudian slip.
That's right. And then he said, and then we're going to change America. And it is a fundamental reshaping that they are wanting to do, adding justices to the Supreme Court, statehood for D.C., for Puerto Rico, repealing the Trump tax cuts, making certain that they make it illegal. Think about it, illegal to have private health insurance. That would affect 153 million Americans that get their insurance from their employer or through the private market. They would take Medicare away from 57 million, everybody, in a Medicaid-style plan, which Joe Biden calls the public option. So this is their goal. It is to take away your freedoms. It is to let government control every single aspect of your life, from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, from the time you are born until the time you die.
Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. Freedom Rings with Marsha Blackburn is a new podcast. You can get it at Freedom Rings. I'll make this right. freedomringspodcast.com. Senator, I got time for one more question. I'm sure you got a look at this Axios story with this Chinese spy who had developed these relationships, probably sexual relationships, with mayors of California politicians, almost all, if not all, Democrats. I know it's kind of hard to know to have fully understood at this point, but do you have any reaction to it? And could it potentially lead to investigations? Do you have any thoughts? You're a fairly tough person on China, so what do we need to know here?
We should know that China is not our friend, and China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, that is your new axis of evil. And China is pushing for global domination. So they're going after politicians that they think are friendly to China. They're looking at governors that are friendly to China policy. And they're making their list, and they're targeting the sphere of influence around these individuals.
And that's key. So is there a way to stop it? Is there a way to look into it? Is there a way to put pressure on people? Because it just looks like, I mean, I just don't, this is part of the whole problem with if Joe Biden in particular is sworn in, is it, who's going to be accountable for this? It seems almost like China is, it just seems like so many people just go along with it.
Well, and that is everyone's concern. And of course, that is what you're hearing from people right now is, well, if Joe Biden ends up as the president-elect and then the president, how would we handle something like this? Because we know there is a cozy relationship between Biden Incorporated and China. And what we do have to do is it'll be up to the U.S. Senate to investigate some of these ties that are coming from China. China has had, when you look at how they approach the 100-year marathon, when you look at their goal that the 21st century will become the China century, when you look at how they are persecuting individuals, their human rights violations, it is mind-boggling that anyone could look at this and say, oh, this is okay, I can live with this, because you can't. This is part of their game plan. It is part of their propaganda.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, formerly Congresswoman, Senator Marsha Blackburn, I really appreciate it. Freedom Rings is the new podcast, freedomringspodcast.com. Thanks for the time. I got to run. We'll be right back.
121st Army Navy game is on ESPNU Radio, Channel 84. This is Chris.